Hi, folks. I hope you're all well. Here's another haul video. Um, if you watched my last video, you'll have seen that I showed a whole ton of modern Psych albums that I picked up at the May bank holiday at the beginning of May at the Windermere record fair. All brilliant stuff in superb condition, limited edition, great prices. I was really pleased with that set of records. And at the time, I said I'd left a whole lot behind, and I was hoping that they'd still be there for the next fair. So, not last weekend, the weekend before was another May bank holiday here in the UK. So my friend and I went off to Windermere, and a lot of that stuff was still there. So I picked up a few albums. Not as many as last time, actually. But I was really pleased. So let's get on and see what I got. As with the last haul, I'll start with an album that isn't a modern band. It's a reissue of a 70s band. And this is Gin House. Oops, can you get that in there? With their album from 1971 was released on the B&C label. The inner is a die cut, and the record sits inside that pocket. Gin House were from Newcastle, and they only released this one album in 1971. They disbanded in 1972. And this is one of those albums that sort of straddles the heavy rock scene on one side and the sort of proto-prog on the other, as a lot of bands were doing in that period. Good songs, some great guitar playing, bits of flute and other complex arrangements on this. So if you're interested in sort of hard rock mixed with progressive rock and a touch of Psych here and there, you might want to try out Gin House. Now, last time I picked up an album from Acid Mother's Temple, the Japanese sort of neo-hippie freak-out psych jamming band. One of the most prolific bands out there. I think I said last time they must have about 60 or 70 albums if you count all of their live albums too. And this time I picked up another couple. The first of which is this album from 2018, Reverse of Rebirth in Universe. Now, the one I picked up last time was Reverse of Rebirth Reprise, which is a cracking album. It was them with Jeff Lee of Henry Cow fame playing flute with them, and it was in a mainly acoustic vein. So seeing as that was a reprise of this, I thought maybe this might be acoustic too. But I've not had a chance to play it yet, but this, it seems, is reworkings of their some of their original songs like Dark Star Blues, and the whole of the second side is taken up with Black Summer Song. It's meant to be fairly laid back, which is unusual for them, with only a sort of a touch of their trademark heavy guitar squealing. So if it's anywhere as good as the previous one, it's going to be a cracker. I've got quite a few Acid Mother Temple albums between CD and vinyl, mainly CD, and I've always enjoyed them, though again, because they're so prolific, they can be a bit hit and miss at times. The CD version of this came with a 16-minute bonus song, a cover of Gong's Flying Teapot. Now, I wouldn't have mind having that on the album, but I've got the vinyl. So there you go. And I picked up another by Acid Mother's Temple, and this is The Ripper at the Heaven's Gate. The Ripper at the Heaven's Gates of Dark, for an easy title. That's the band there. This is a double album from 2011. Hope we can get all of that in there. Again, not had a chance to listen to this one, but I think what I've read, with the exception of the first track, Chinese Flying Saucer, which is meant to be pretty Zeppelinish in style, this again is more laid back than a lot of their stuff, less frantic, and it's a more blissed out was the description, with a lot of brooding Japanese psych, with a more emphasis on acoustic guitar, sitar, organ, synth, and trippy vocals, described as recalling the twisted psychedelics of early Pink Floyd. So this just sounds like it's going to be right up my street. Looking to give this a spin. And speaking of Pink Floyd, Side C is taken up with a 22-minute Shine On You Crazy Dynamite. They've got a penchant for taking titles of classic psych and prog songs and giving them their own little twist. Oh, I should have shown that the vinyl, it comes in this red splatter, I suppose. Quite nice, red and black.
If that adventure's ever
And next up we have another double album, this time from Canada rather than Japan. And this is In the Future by the band Black Mountain. As I said, they're from Vancouver, Canada, founded in, I think, 2004. This is their second album. Sorry about the glare there. I've got one CD by them and they're very good. I have just never got round to buying any vinyl. They're described as a sort of 70s style in stoner rock, a combination of Floyd, Black Sabbath, and Jefferson Airplane. The latter part because of the occasional female vocals that sound a bit like Grace Slick and that have that stoned West Coast sound. But they're an excellent band, and if you like your new psychedelic music with hints back to the 70s and late 60s and 70s classics, then you could do worse than checking out Black Mountain. Next up, we have a couple of bands that I've never heard of. Well, I might have heard of the first, but I'm definitely not the second. Anyway, the first one is Aquarius Lux. The name does ring a bell, but definitely never heard anything by them. They're a psychedelic space rock band out of the UK and are a project of two bands called Primitive Knot and Wordin Module. I think it's just one guy, out of Lincolnshire. And they have that sort of motoric space rock mixed with krautrock and psych freak out stylings. This is meant to be for fans of modern bands like Carlton Melton and White Manor, those heavy psych space rockish bands, along with, as I said, anybody that likes Can and Ashra Temple and Agitation Free. This is on the Weird Beard label and came out in 2020. Comes with a nice inner, very trippy. Nothing on the other side. Make a nice poster on the wall. And very nice splatter vinyl there. This time in blue mainly. So looking forward to that one. second band that I'm not aware of was Dead Otter. Great name for a band. And this is I think their first full-length album, maybe their only one. That came out in 2018. The band have been around since 1995, I think. They're out of Glasgow, and they're described in certain places as psychedelic heavy metal, and as the bastard sons of Hawkwind and Sabbath. They say they take their inspiration from Black Sabbath, Steve Hillage, the Groundhogs, Hawkwind. They have twin guitar lead, one of whom is Omar Aborida, who was in the Cosmic Dead, might be still is. I don't know if they're still going. A great psych rock band. I've got a few albums by them. And it's a mixture of stoner rock, psych and space rock, drifting improvisations and full-on space rock noise. So again, one I'm looking forward to giving a good listen to. Like I said, love that name, Dead Otter. Now we have My Sleeping Karma. This is another double album. This is their album Soma from 2012. Sorry about that. They're a psychedelic space rock, stoner rock, post rock, a bit of everything in here. Out of Germany, started in 2005. This is their fourth album. I've got one CD, a promo CD, I think of their first album, and it's excellent. Their instrumental, this is a very psyche, very proggy. This album, Soma, is named after the intoxicating drink of the gods, I think, from Greek mythology. And each of the 6 tracks on the first 3 sides are the album proper, and they're named after ingredients of the drink. The 4th side is a bonus side with a couple of other tracks on it. If this is anything like the CD I've got, it's going to be excellent stuff. If you like your psych space rock with a heavy dose of progressive rock, then I would highly recommend My Sleeping Karma. finally, we come to a bit of a funny one, this one. You'll see why in a minute. This is the band whose name is a symbol. Not an easy name to doesn't trip off the tongue, or TBWNIAS as they're often just referred to. This is their album Codicil, on the Birdman Sound label. I think this is from 2019. Now, they're said that, did I say they're a Canadian band out of Ottawa, and they play sort of improvisational, freeform psych rock with a lot of influences from 60s garage rock, 70s hard rock, bit of jazz, experimental musics, some kraut-rock and Eastern stylings. They're very, very prolific. I think I worked out that this is something like their 22nd album. And seeing as it's only been around since 2008, they've done a massive ton of stuff. I've got quite a bit by them because they're big friends of a friend of mine, Dave Cambridge, who runs the Cardinal Fuzz label, and they've released stuff via his label. And they're also friends with Brett Savage, another friend of mine, who is the guitarist with the great Dead Sea Apes. And they've done a split album with Dead Sea Apes, and I think the last Dead Sea Apes album was a mixture between the two bands. So why did I say this was a bit of a funny one? Well, I thought I was getting a double album here. But when I opened it up, I discovered two single albums, the same album. And the reason for this is it was released in this form as a limited edition of 100 black vinyl. And at the same time, they did a silk screened edition of only 15, of which this, according to the back, I don't know if you can see, is number 10. So the collector that had these and sold them to Phil at Windermere, he must have been a true collector and wanted both editions. Also the fact that half the stuff I've showed you was still sealed. So, as I say, he must have been a hardcore collector of the music of these bands. I really like the band whose name is a symbol. And by the way, the name has nothing to do with Prince, as I always assumed. It was just they originally decided they were going to have a symbol for their name. But when asked about what they were called from journalists, they just said that they are the band whose name is a symbol. Don't know what the symbol is. Oh, I take it that's meant to be the symbol there. But it's an awkward name for a band. Like I said, they're a great band. If you like freeform psych rock, you'll enjoy them. So 2 for the price of 1. there you go. That's what I got at Windermere at the last bank holiday. And believe it or not, there's still some there. I took some pictures of some of the albums because I didn't know the band, so I needed to look them up. Some of them are more heavy rock bands, more towards the metal end, which probably doesn't interest me, but there's still a few there that I might pick up next time if they're there. And there was a few 70s reissues as well that I was quite interested in. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope to be back again fairly soon. As I said, I hope you're all well. And I just want to, by the way, I never say this enough or at all. I just want to thank everybody who watches my videos, and particularly those that take time out to comment. That interaction is always highly welcome and is the main part of why I do this. So thank you again, everybody. Take care and see you soon.